Okay, let's keep this quick. Here are 3 rules for cycling. First rule, you have as much right to be on the roads as car drivers do. I know that sounds crazy, but you do. You're a road user. There are a few arguments that car drivers seem to hurl at cyclists which always baffle me. For a start, people say that cyclists should pay road tax as well. Well, I've got news for you, road tax was abolished in 1937. What car drivers pay is vehicles excise duty. And even if road tax was a thing, which, may I remind you, it hasn't been for 90 years, then we would probably still pay it because, here's a stat for you, over 80% of adult cyclists in the UK are also car drivers. So we would also be paying that tax, but we wouldn't be damaging the roads in the same way that cars are. But it's kind of moot because road tax doesn't exist. Now, I truly believe that the biggest reason why non-cycling car drivers find cyclists so difficult and get so angry at them actually isn't because they just hate cyclists. I think most of the reason is because cyclists are very vulnerable on the roads, and those drivers are aware of that. They're also aware that if they hit a cyclist, they might have a death on their hands, they might go to prison. It's all very scary. For a lot of people, fear comes out as anger. They are angry at you for making them feel uncomfortable and afraid. That is why they're so annoyed. So I think more of what we need is empathy for cyclists, empathy for drivers, but also just remember that we all belong on the road. That does not mean act like an idiot though. Do not cycle in the middle of the road super slowly just to annoy the drivers behind you. Rule number 2 is cycling is almost always better than not cycling. And this is what I mean by that. Sure, it might be grey and a bit miserable outside, or you've had a hard day, or like me, you're going through one of the worst work situations you could possibly go through. That's a story for another day. But going for a bike ride is probably going to make you feel better, but only if you're kind to yourself and are looking after yourself. And what I mean by that is that when you're having a tough day or you don't really want to go out, make sure you plan a route that is kind to yourself. So plan a low traffic route, plan it in a beautiful place, plan an easy one where you can take your time and stop and look at the scenery. Don't go all out, I'm going to punish myself, I'm going to get this rage out through punishing my own body. Unless that really helps you, in which case, fine. Just be kind, and that bike ride will probably make you feel a lot better. My third rule of cycling is don't avoid hills. I know some of you live in really flat places, and so hills aren't really a thing, but if you don't live in a super flat place, seek out those hills. Don't avoid them, because that is what's going to make you stronger. I count myself quite lucky to live in a really hilly area, so I can't really avoid the hills, but as a result, I get stronger so much quicker than I would if I lived in a flatter place. So especially if you're newer to cycling, I would really recommend not avoiding hills, especially if they're quiet hills, you know, when you're not going to have a load of traffic up your ass, because that's not very fun. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day full of bike adventures.